and this training will be addressing prevailing wage. We'll talk about what this requires, if it applies to your project, and how to stay in compliance. What is prevailing wage? Prevailing wage is a minimum hourly wage for a specific job classification based on project location. Prevailing wage laws are intended to ensure construction projects that are funded by public funds pay a wage that meets or exceeds local market conditions for similar jobs. Federal and/or state law is the mechanism by which prevailing wages are required. On the federal level, the Davis-Bacon Act requires the payment of prevailing wage on contracts over $2,000 funded with federal dollars. Wage decisions are determined by the U.S. Department of Labor. On the state level, Colorado's prevailing wage law is covered under the Colorado Quality Apprenticeship Training Act, Senate Bill 19-196. It requires that prevailing wage apply to all state-funded projects with contracts over $500,000 that are not federally funded or funded via CDOT. Wage decisions for the Colorado Quality Apprenticeship Training Act are issued by the Department of Personnel and Administration based on U.S. Department of Labor decisions. If prevailing wage is required, wages for covered employees must meet or exceed the prevailing wage for the employee's job, trade, and locality. The calculation of prevailing wages takes into account salary or wages and non-required fringe and benefits, such as health insurance, retirement, holiday vacation pay, life insurance, etc. Mandatory employer payroll costs, such as Medicare and Social Security match, are not included in the calculations. Prevailing wage laws also require weekly payment to employees. A company that accepts a prevailing wage contract is required to document payroll costs and submit payroll data weekly to the responsible party for review and certification. The U.S. Department of Labor issues wage determinations or decisions and establishes locally prevailing wage rates. Updates to the prevailing wage rates or decisions may occur annually on or before July 1st. Any request for proposals subject to the prevailing wage laws must include the applicable wage determination included in the solicitation. This will allow bidders to know what wage decision to use for bidding and compliance purposes. With a few exceptions, once the contract is awarded, the wage determination will be locked in and will dictate the wage rates that will be used for the remainder of the project. If a contract is awarded without a wage determination, the agency must terminate the contract and resolicit with a valid wage determination, or incorporate the correct wage determination retroactively to the beginning of construction, typically through a supplemental or change order to compensate the contractor for any required increases in wages. So, what wage agreements or acts apply to my project? Prevailing wage and/or labor acts are required unless they are specifically excluded by a program. This will be identified in the awardee's grant agreement and applies to contractors and subcontractors that are hired. Payment of prevailing wage is required if a grantee receives $500,000 or more in state funds. For some programs, Davis-Bacon and payment of prevailing wage are optional. However, at minimum, subgrantees must do one of three labor requirements. For example, if you don't certify Davis-Bacon or Senate Bill 19-196, you must do a labor certification report. If Davis-Bacon applies, then Senate Bill 19-196 never will, and vice versa. In no case will both apply for a project. The first step for a grantee contractor is that they must decide whether to do Davis-Bacon or complete and submit a labor report. Remember, while federal partners are not technically requiring Davis-Bacon, they are requiring federal labor reporting that is very similar to Davis-Bacon. Advanced Colorado broadband projects must either certify that they are participating in Davis-Bacon or submit a labor report. Note, if blending funds with another federal funding source, you may be subject to Davis-Bacon. What do I have to do for labor reporting? Grantees must reach out to all subcontractors to request the required information. The report requires the number of employees, their wages, and whether those wages are less than prevailing wage, although it doesn't require payroll adjustments if they are not. Grantees must complete and submit the labor report. And OIT grant managers will review the report and request additional information if needed. If you choose not to do the labor reporting and do Davis-Bacon instead, these are the requirements. Grantees and contractors are responsible for communicating the wage decision to subcontractors and maintaining the required posted information on job sites, requesting additional classifications as needed. This happens if there is a trade that doesn't fit within the pre-established decision categories, ensuring compliance for subcontractors and their subs, and reviewing and retaining certified payroll documentation. Subcontractors must certify payroll documentation to the grantee contractor on a weekly basis. Thank you for your time today and your commitment to learning more about the compliance requirements around the Advanced Colorado Broadband programs. Please reach out to us with any questions at advance_cbo@state.co.us.